Good evening from Yammy TV. Wishing you all well, sending loads of love as usual. Before I get down to my reading tonight, I'd like to send a special message of love to one of my oldest friends, Paul Warwick, his beloved wife Tara Warwick, and the kids. Also, a member of his team, David H., his lovely wife Emma, and the kids also as well. Right. There's some background between me and Paul Warwick. I met him in Aylesbury. I've only got one vision of him from Aylesbury, and that involved a massive fight with him and another fella where they both ended up with serious scars. So apart from that, I have no recollection or no other memories about him whatsoever. A few years later, I bumped into him again in 1992. I was in a three-man cell in Colderley. When you get to Colderley them days, you go into a three-man cell, which is induction, right? On seeing him, he remembered me. I remembered bits of him, but not much, like I said. But for a few nights, I remember waking up hearing him crying, having some kind of meltdown, some kind of breakdown, heart-wrenching crying. So one of those nights, I switched on the light. I asked him what was wrong. He said to me that God's telling him that he needs to leave this life that he's leading, that he can't take it no more. It's hurting him too much. He's got regret, shame. He feels like he's living for nothing. There seems to be no purpose to his life. I was so worried for him. Even them days, I wasn't God-fearing. I was thinking that he'd gone a bit la-di-da-di-da, like some people do when you give your life to God and Christ at first. Not so much these days, but in the old days they did. I was one of those, I'm afraid. I said, I think you need to see someone. So he got in touch with the chaplain. The chaplain came to see him a few times, right? And after a little while, he disappeared. Never saw him ever again until 2018. After my spinal injuries, there is a group of prison visitors that hold classes once a week. I think they're from the Trinity Church in Wandsworth. They come in to uplift prisoners, to help prisoners, to give them some kind of hope, not to, ones that are alone, who feel the need to get out their cell, to get, some kind of guidance or spiritual, help, or whatever. Even some just get out their cells just for the sake of using the class to get out their cells. But sometimes that even in itself can help a man to change. Anyway, one of those classes, I think it was the second one, I heard someone say, "Sammy." I said to him, "Yes." He said, "Do you remember me?" I said, "No." "Vaguely, your face looks familiar." He said, "I remember you. I was in Aylesbury with you, and I was in Colderley with you." I said, "What's your name?" He said, "Paul Warwick." I said, "Right, I remembered you. I remembered the meltdown." Over the years, interesting that I should have remembered him over a few times in life where I lied there and I wondered how his life had gone. Wondering, that I'd often felt many times along those 30, 40 years, the pain that he seemed to be going through that night, right? And he told me how his life had gone. He's a novelist now, a book writer, an author. He makes short films. He's got his YouTube channel. And he is a hardcore Christian, if there's ever such a word. So he did exactly what he said he was going to do 30 odd years ago. And he has never looked back. He's never been back to prison, never committed another crime. And his life is dedicated to his family and to the Father and the Son. Right. When I came out, he came round mine for dinner. I went round his for dinner. Due to all the hurdles over the last 2 years, not much contact, fair to say, right? But hearing that he's been following me still is heartening, because I kind of forgot about him, sadly. And then out of the blue the other day, he asked me, would I be prepared to let him write an article about me in the Christian newspaper? Straight away, I agreed. Anything to do with God, I always agree. I remembered thinking when he was having the meltdown back then, when he was waking up crying in the middle of the night, thinking that he'd gone off his rocker. And, it's fair to say Many do when you do change, when you do show change. There's many that scoff the Father and the Son and think you've gone a bit weird. And me now being the way that I am, know now that I used to think the same in that kind of way. Anyway, during those classes, it went on for a few weeks. We promised to meet each other when I came out. I remember leaving the gate, saying to him, God's told me there's going to be something, there's going to be a change in my life. There's going to be something that takes place that's going to take me away from crime. He looked at me and he said, how did you? I said, well, God's told me, kind of thing, right? So you're going to hear about all this. One second. So anyway, he approaches me and I agree. I was meant to go today, ended up going, didn't work out. We're going to meet again and it's going to be very soon. And I'm going to keep you posted on it. Very, very interesting story. Probably going to interview him at some stage as well. So I'll get ready for that. So once it's up there and it's in the newspaper, I'll be letting you know. And those that are interested in finding out how that article goes, then you're welcome to look at the newspaper and hear what Uncle Yammy's got to say. So this reading tonight is on behalf of you lot and on behalf of Paul Warwick and his family and all concerned with Trinity Church as well, who I like to pay my ultimate respects to as well for their guidance, for their support, for their non-judgmental ways. Victoria as well, who's a great singer as well, who works tirelessly with trying to help people like people like me that have been through the system, that are still going through their hardships and pain. There are many like this out here that are so free and easy with their love and support to guide you and give you help. It is out there as well as in there. The reading tonight is from The Golden Harvest, my book, and it is forgiveness and thankfulness. There are two qualities which a man must cherish in his heart if he would advance into the temple of that star which led the wise men to Christ. These are forgiveness and thankfulness. Simple qualities like keys which can open the gates to the mysteries of the heavens. You cannot pass through the gates until you have mastered such simple human lessons. Jesus once said, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." Forgiveness is one of the hardest lessons that humanity has to learn. But as man forgives, so he himself is forgiven. This is the law of forgiveness. It is that not so difficult to forgive the big things, but we do not mean that kind of trespass. We have in the mind the little things in life, the hasty judgments, the impatience with human frailties. We are all human. We are all frail at times and need forgiveness. In the spirit world, all have to be very forgiving. So will you also try to forgive those who err, who make mistakes, largely because they do not understand? Forgive them also, even if they do understand, according to your knowledge. Forgiveness in your heart brings sunshine, peace of the soul, tranquility into your life. Forgive, therefore, not only the big depths, but the trivial human frailties. When hasty emotions threaten to overwhelm you, just forgive. Then all shall be forgiven. You and God will bless you. The second quality is thankfulness. Never cease to be thankful or feel thankful to God. This is the secret of a perfect life. for in the act of thanking God, you become in tune with him. Thank God for all the blessings of your life and for every opportunity offered to you during this incarnation, which enables you to grow nearer to Christhood. Do not let your day slip by aimlessly, but be ever on the lookout for the meaning behind every episode which comes along. Life is not something just to be muddled through, but given so that you may welcome and rejoice in every experience. For these experiences are meant not as a harsh chastisement or punishment, but as opportunities for you to learn to understand the wisdom of God's law and the power of the spiritual light which emanates from God himself. Take with both hands that which the world would call bitterness, for within that bitterness you will find nectar, that sweetness. It is the way in which you accept your experiences that matters, the way you allow them to awaken the love of the Christ Spirit in your heart. Whatever ordeal lies before you, my child, remember the Christ presence, for it will never leave you, and it brings peace and courage. You may be deeply thankful for his love. Did he not say, "Lo, I am with you always"? Good night. I'll be up tomorrow with an educational video about inflation. Loads of love. Sleep peacefully.